Welcome back to the program. So, a Trump appointed judge just today ordered the release of the South Florida Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, before this happened, I was basically saying all along that more than likely, whatever they're waiting on, whatever they're going to release, is either going to be so heavily redacted that it's not going to make any matter at all, or it's going to be a complete nothing burger, 100%. So, I still kind of feel like that, but knowing that this judge is now releasing the grand jury records, maybe, just maybe, we might find out a little bit more information. I don't know. I'm still skeptical. Judge orders Jeffrey Epstein related grand jury records in Florida to be released publicly. A previous bid to release these exact same transcripts was denied by a different judge earlier this year. So let's see. Okay, we don't need to talk about that. The newly passed Epstein Files Transparency Act calls for the release of, quote, unclassified records, unclassified documents, unclassified communications, and investigative notes and materials related to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And the specific language of the law overrides the traditional secrecy of grand jury materials. It's unclear when the materials will become public. In its motion asking for the materials to be released, the Justice Department said that it, quote, will work with the relevant United States attorneys' offices to make appropriate redactions, again, like I said, of victims related and other personal identifying information. The grand jury investigation was conducted in West Palm Beach, Florida, near Epstein's home. Federal prosecutors were investigating whether the financier was preying on scores of underage girls in his mansion. Obviously, we know he was. He eventually struck a sweetheart deal, which was very scrutinized, that allowed him to not only plead guilty to state solicitation charges instead of a single underage prostitution charge, while also reaching a secret non-prosecution agreement with the federal government. Well, we all know why, because he was an FBI informant. It's unclear how much of the material in the 2005 and 2007 investigation will be new. The materials were available to federal prosecutors in New York who charged Epstein with sex trafficking in 2019, and much of the underlying material is believed to have emerged in the years as a result of the civil suits brought by Epstein's victims. Those cases included a suit against the Justice Department for having failed to notify them of its non-prosecution deal. The government has similarly put out motions pending in New York relating to the 2019 charges against Jeffrey Epstein and the 2020 charges against Ghislaine Maxwell, the accomplice. Maxwell was convicted, of course, of federal sex trafficking charges and serving a 20-year prison term. Epstein died by suicide, sure he did, in his jail cell. The Justice Department moved to unseal the transcripts earlier this year after receiving furious public blowback after issuing unsigned joint memos with the FBI memo declaring that they had reviewed all of the evidence against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and that no other people would be charged in connection with their trafficking of minors and that no additional material or evidence would be released. Look, I want to see justice. I've said this, numerous times for the victims, okay? These women did not deserve the treatment that they got, point blank. And I do hope that restitution comes their way at some point. I don't think there's going to be anything in here. I don't think there's a, quote, big reveal. I know that as far back as 2019, when the Epstein thing was big in the news and I was covering it constantly, I dropped as many names that pretty much have already been out there, okay? So I gave you 40, 50, 60 names at that time. We haven't really seen many more names that have come out that were like, oh my God, what about that person? That's a new name. Maybe Stacey Plaskett, maybe the congresswoman from the Virgin Islands. I would like to look into her. I think she could be part of this. But during Thanksgiving, I was talking to my brother-in-law who lives in Texas that came out to visit. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people that are like hell-bent on this. And it's like they're so focused on just this. Like they don't care about all the other amazing, great things that the president has accomplished. Ending 8 wars, closing down the border, getting rid of these elite. I mean, all these wonderful things. They're just like Epstein, 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 Epstein. And he's a former DEA agent and a prosecutor, so he's in law enforcement. And he's like, I want to see these Epstein files. I don't care, this and that. I'll go down there. I'll go to the Department of Justice myself and get them released. I mean, he's just like gung-ho over this. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, we would like to see this come out. We'd also like to see the JFK files come out. We'd also like to see all the other files come out. We'd also like to see what happened on July 13th, in 2024 to President Trump. We'd like to find out a lot of these things, and we're not. Why? I don't know. I can't answer that. But again, I don't think there's going to be much here. I really don't. I think this is going to be another nothing burger. But I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of people that are really hell-bent on this. They really want this information to come out. I think if they had it, it would have come out years ago, number one. And number two, you would think that some of these victims would come out personally, hire bodyguards 24/7, 365, but come out personally and say that this person did that. That person did this, and I'm filing a criminal lawsuit against this person and that person. Where are the victims' lawsuits against all of these, so-called perpetrators? And again, there are a lot of perpetrators. There are a lot of people that did horrific, horrible things to these poor young gals. But we haven't heard anything other than what was put out when I put it out in 2019. There hasn't been any bombshells, any earthquakes or whatever you want to call it. And so that's why I'm worried. I don't think there's going to be much coming from this, but who knows? We will have to just see. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.